Good afternoon from Songdo, South Korea. My name is Wairitsuk Jingmidash. I'm the Outreach and Engagement Manager at the Independent Integrity Unit of GCF. I will moderate today's session, and thanks for joining with us today's panel. As you know, today is the International Anti-Corruption Day, and this event is organized by the Independent Integrity Unit of the GCF to commemorate this important day. Every year, GCF celebrates International Anti-Corruption Day, and this year we organized a series of events, both internally and externally. So today's topic of the panel is our collective movement, corruption-free climate action. And we will discuss multi-stakeholder response to the climate crisis while ensuring integrity and accountability. We will hear different sectoral and field perspectives, insights on the integrity challenges in climate projects, and how we can energize our partnership. We will also have a chance to hear emerging trends in anti-corruption efforts and what's the global outlook for accountability in the climate projects. So today we have good representation of the multi-stakeholders here in the panel. We have GCF's national focal point. We have representation from our AEs, accredited entities, readiness partner, and also from International Bar Association. So we are very pleased to have this esteemed panel. Now let's watch the video message by the Executive Director of the Green Climate Fund, Yannick Glemerick.
Every December 9th, the Green Climate Fund celebrates International Anti-Corruption Day, a day designated to commemorate the adoption of the United Nations Convention Against Corruption and to highlight the rights and responsibilities of all in tackling corruption. Corruption has immediate impacts on averting climate change. First, it erodes trust in institutions and weakens the legitimacy of public policy. Second, without transparency in the process of implementing climate-resilient infrastructure, it's become impossible to take risks and learn. And third, the perception of corruption makes it harder to close the enormous financing gap for climate projects. Integrity is a powerful tool that must be utilized to optimize climate action and scale up the impact and reach of climate projects to vulnerable communities. GCF is a partnership organization working through a network of over 200 accredited and delivery partners. Its leverage is capacity building for accredited entities and delivering partners, its second-level due diligence, and its independent accountability mechanism to establish strong line of defense against corruption and optimize climate impact. At COP27, the GCF Independent Integrity Unit launched an initiative to engage civil society for greater transparency and accountability. GCF joins the larger international community at United Against Corruption with the core notion that through the cooperation of every sector, we can defend climate action from corruption and, as a result, overcome the threat of climate change.
Thank you. Okay, so let's start our panel discussion. So let me start introducing our panelists. As I mentioned, today we have such a diverse and esteemed panelists representing various sectors and GCF stakeholders to share their perspectives and challenges in their work. So let me start with our first panelist, Mr. Leopoldo Pagotto. He is the chair of the Anti-Corruption Committee of the International Bar Association. And he's also partner of the Freitas Leite Advogados, the Brazilian law firm, and he practices antitrust, anti-corruption, and compliance practices. He advises companies in various industries, including banking, capital markets, telecommunication, and infrastructure. So Leopoldo is also selected 40 under 40 by the Global Investigation Review in the category of internal investigation. We are very pleased to have you here at the panel. Our next panelist, Mrs. Paula Rolfs. She is the head of the project Partnering for the Readiness at GIZ. The Partnering for Readiness supports the countries in accessing GCF financing and also supports the peer-to-peer learning alliance on the climate finance integrity. Paula has a vast experience in climate finance and readiness projects in renewable energy policy. And she also worked on the various projects, both at the headquarters at GAIC and also in Mexico. And she also previously worked at the think tank and a consultant on climate policy and climate finance. Now, our last but not least panelist, Mrs. Chohant Genchev Lamdang. She is national focal point of GCF in Mongolia. She has extensive experience working with the central government and international organization on nature conservation and waste management, climate finance, and climate adaptation project. She has also worked in the field of monitoring and evaluation in different stakeholder projects. Thank you very much. So let's start our panel discussion. As I mentioned, today's topic of the session is corruption-free, our collective action movement for corruption-free climate action. So we will discuss why anti-corruption effort is important in our climate change action. As we all know, the catastrophic climate crisis needs rapid action. Unfortunately, corruption impedes the rapid action and all the collective efforts. So tackling climate change and fighting corruption go hand in hand. So if we try to maximize the climate change efforts, we have to address corruption as well. Let's begin with Leopold Pagotto, and thanks again for joining this panel. We are very honored to have you here as a panelist from International Bar Association, and as myself, a newly elected officer of the Anti-Corruption Committee, which I'm very honored. I closely watch and see and proud of Anti-Corruption Committee's work and effort in the recent months and years. So I would like to hear from you, from your experience in the global anti-corruption work and advocacy, and also from your private legal practice. What emergent trends are you seeing, and what is the outlook for accountability in preventing corruption? And how do you think these trends will influence anti-corruption efforts in climate change? Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bayar, for the invitation and for the questions. It's a great honor to be here, and I'm very pleased to be able to contribute to this discussion, which I deem to be very important. So let me turn quickly to your question, and I will reply the three of them together. First, let me point out the first trend I see, which is relevant in the big picture. I think that there is no doubt that anti-corruption enforcement has been increasing in the past 20 years. I think that it has a very positive effect on all the public policies, since it avoids additional costs to implement projects and maximizes the use of scarce economic resources. This widespread effect of anti-corruption enforcement for all economic sectors and practices benefits the overall effect of in the overall efforts in the climate change changes. So as the first trend, I list this increased anti-corruption enforcement, even though some people would say, well, during the pandemics, it decreased a bit, but now we are seeing that the national authorities are going back to the usual pace. Especially, I say that there is a growing enforcement because you have to compare 20, 30 years ago to what we have today. 20, 30 years ago, there were economists who were write academic papers saying that corruption was good. It would be a kind of grease to move forward development. So I think this is the first interesting aspect that we have to consider as a trend. So let me move to the second trend that I think it's important for today's discussion. There is a a growth also in international cooperation among states in anti-corruption investigations. So again, let's see from a time perspective. Look at what international cooperation was 20 years ago. 20 years ago, if an investigator or a prosecutor wanted to get information from another country, it would have to go through diplomatic channels full of red tape, and it would take lots of time to get what they wanted. There is a famous case here in Brazil of corruption, which required international cooperation. I know that it started in 2016, and it was concluded only in 2018. So now we have real-time information exchange, and everything is made through WhatsApp. So I think that we have gone through a major change in the past, I would say, 10 years. And this is going to continue. And personally, I think that also climate change efforts have a lot to gain with this new scenario. You know why? Because I know that several projects that are funded by the Green Climate Fund are cross-border. And also the corruption nowadays is cross-border. I think that what we saw here in Latin America in car wash operation was that several corruption schemes spread over several countries. So in the future, if we identify any wrongdoing involving several countries, it would be very easy to address these matters. And I think it's quite obvious. Like if you look at, for instance, speaking about my region, Latin America, several ecosystems spread from one country to other. So we have the wetlands here in Brazil that include Argentina, Paraguay, Bolivia, and Brazil, or the Amazon, which includes 8 countries in South America. So I think there is a lot of opportunity to use this trend in favor of the fight against global warming. And I think that it should not be that easy, especially because the resources are considerable, and the public opinion is very much engaged on that. So asking the prosecutors to focus on the international cooperation efforts in this area of climate change should not be something difficult in terms of raising awareness. And the third main trend that I identify is the growing concern with the supply chains. As you know, most modern anti-corruption legislations require that you but strongly suggest that you perform due diligence in your suppliers. It's basically because the EU could be held. Just a second. It's early in the morning here, and the clock started to run. But as I was saying, a lot of there is already something related to due diligence in anti-corruption. You, as a big company, may be held jointly liable for any wrongdoing made by a supplier or a business partner. What's new is that there has been a major focus in the past years in looking at the issues in the supply chains. And we're not talking only about anti-corruption, but also about human rights and environmental matters. You see a lot of rules coming out from European countries. You have a specific rule in Germany about that. some American states are also paying attention. In Brazil, there are initiatives under discussion in Parliament. So this is a topic that has been, how can I say, on the spotlight in the past years. So my point is that this renewed approach to due diligence can definitely be used to increment the awareness and the relationship between anti-corruption and climate change. Anti-corruption due diligence is there, but I believe that we can give a different perspective. So perhaps we are not paying attention all the time to the climate change issue. Because, of course, we are focused on anti-corruption, but perhaps we can expand the perspective. So I could go on with other trends, but I think these are the most relevant trends for the webinar's topics. YR.
Thank you, Leopoldo. It's very nice to hear the positive trends for the
Yes.
anti-corruption efforts globally. And as we all know, today's the panel discussion topic is partnership, the collective movement across different sectors. So the legal community is such a powerful and significant industry and community. So what do you think is the role of the legal community in preventing corruption in climate action? And how we can join forces and partner together in the anti-corruption efforts in the climate projects? What is your perspectives on that?
Thank you very much. This is a very good question, especially because today we're celebrating the International Anti-Corruption Day, and the legal community has been at the forefront of the most significant changes in anti-corruption enforcement the past 20, 30 years. The IBA since the 90s has been pushing towards anti-corruption enforcement, and I'm very keen to speaking about that. Well, turning to your question, I think that the legal sector must do its homework before anything else. And a lot has been done. I always say that if you just look at the amount of paper that was consumed 20, 30 years ago and what's used today, it's a major shift. Now, most of cases in a growing number of jurisdictions are online or in electronic files. So this means that, of course, the impact on carbon emissions has been decreasing as paper files are no longer available. So, but of course, there is more room to do about things to do in offices and job organization to avoid carbon emissions. I think that this is something that most law firms already are aware of. However, it would be naive, in my opinion, to believe that this is all. As an important actor in society, attorneys can do more in their daily practice. So I think that there may be a change in the way we advise clients. What do I mean? We only tend to look at aspects that are purely legal. If there is no crime or no wrongdoing involved, we are going to say this can be done. And our legal advice normally would end there. However, why not to go a step further? Why not draw attention to clients about the impacts from a climate change perspective? Although I'm not very fond of this idea, I still need to think. There is even talk to create ethical standards based on climate awareness. In other words, the ethical drives of the legal profession would be amended to include climate change considerations to the legal advice. So what I said would not only be a best practice, but it would become mandatory and when you face a situation requiring a strong position because the project is against the premises of carbon reduction, the lawyer would have an obligation to speak up and advise against. So you can see the situation we are in the legal profession. The discussions are moving forward very quickly and towards very polemic realms. So I think that there will be major developments in the coming years. In relation to how we can partner, I think that there is a wide plethora of opportunities. But in special, I would like to talk about one we are particularly involved in, the IBA Anti-Corruption Committee at the moment. As I mentioned to you during the preparation of this webinar, we have created a task force focused on Ukraine. Mm-hmm. And what's the purpose of this task force? In the past, we have identified that every time the international community funds reconstruction efforts, I can tell you the case of Rwanda, Kosovo, Haiti. In all these three cases where a lot of money has been spent, there were massive wastes because of corruption. And mismanagement, of course. But corruption played a major role in those cases. And there was, Afghanistan is also a good example. So there was a lot of criticism on how the resources were not properly used to change their reality. And I think that there is a clear parallel here between the climate change efforts and what we are doing. And why? Because Ukraine, as we know, we all sympathize with the situation of the country, but we cannot deny that it was a country with a high corruption perception index. It was a problematic jurisdiction, and it will receive resources from the international community for reconstruction. So what is our idea in the task force I mentioned? We are going to review what went wrong in anti-corruption in Kosovo, in Rwanda. I'm doing the study on Haiti because Brazil had a close relationship with that, and Afghanistan. And based on that, we are going to identify the pitfalls and what went wrong actually in those cases to talk to the Ukrainian authorities, advise how to do things to avoid the problems from the past. So I think this is a major effort from the IBA Anti-Corruption Committee, and we are more than glad to share our experience and findings with you. Because I think, as I said, there is a clear relationship between what we are doing and what you actually do. So, of course, this is the IB Anti-Corruption Committee is more than open to exchange information, share experience, and assist you technically from an institutional perspective. We have members who are active in other international organizations, international financial organizations like the World Bank, the International Reconstruction Development Bank. So we can help. I'm sure that you already have their contacts, but we have a very strongly engaged community within us, and we pride ourselves at having some experts in these areas that I mentioned. So I think that we are open to discussion, and there is a lot to do in the coming years. Bayer, yeah. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's very. We are very impressed the work that you have done, and also the potential role that legal community can play. And I really like the analogy that your work in Ukraine in a crisis situation in Haiti. Indeed, the climate change, it is also a climate crisis. It's such a catastrophic crisis, equivalent similar to the war. And the approach and effort that you undertake in this crisis situation is also applicable in the climate crisis efforts. So the best practices and your expertise indeed is very relevant for us, and it's something that we could learn and share and work together. Thank you very much for sharing this information.
My pleasure. Bye.
Thank you. And now let's move to our next panelist, Mrs. Paula. As I introduced, Paula is from GIZ, and she GIZ works closely with GCF and also Independent Integrity Unit. And GCF is actually GIZ is actually our GCF's accredited entity, as well as readiness delivery partner. So we're very close partners over the years, and you have vast of experience in climate projects that is funded by the GCF. So I would like to hear your perspectives on your projects, especially in the readiness portfolio, within the framework, the Peer-to-Peer Learning Alliance. Can you please quickly, briefly introduce the initiative, Peer-to-Peer Learning, where we also collaborate together with TI, and what are the challenges for the peer countries in the integrity in implementing the GCF-funded projects? Over to you, Paula.
Yes, many thanks, Baira, and dear colleagues. I'm really delighted to join you today for this important day of anti-corruption and to speak about this Peer-to-Peer Learning Alliance on Climate Finance Integrity that you mentioned, Baira. Yeah, as you mentioned, GIZ is an accredited entity to the GCF and also a readiness delivery partner. And I'm actually heading a project that's coordinating the delivery partner role. So I will speak on behalf of this role that we have. And we are supporting this peer-to-peer learning alliance, mostly on facilitating the members' exchange. Right, and yeah, after having heard from Leopoldo about the important work of the global legal community, this alliance will give you a few insights on local institutions implementing climate change projects and their collaboration on anti-corruption. So the Peer-to-Peer Learning Alliance on Climate Finance Integrity, it's a network in which national and regional so-called direct access entities to the Green Climate Fund from around the world are supporting each other, mostly to adopt and implement integrity and anti-corruption practices and to uphold the standards of the GCF. Yeah, the Alliance really provides a platform to strengthen the dialogue and the knowledge exchange on how to safeguard climate finance resources from abuse and misuse, such as, for example, maladaptation. The alliance was initiated in 2017, and currently our project at GIZ is coordinating the alliance in collaboration with Transparency International and in collaboration with you, with the GCF's Independent Integrity Unit. And yeah, to get to your question on the challenges of the alliance members. Yeah, in general, many of the countries where the peers or the institutions of this alliance are operating are characterized by rather weak governance structures, and thus they face fraud and corruption and also other integrity challenges, but to differing degrees. And this presents major difficulties for countries and their institutions when planning and implementing projects, and in order to avoid misuse of funds or negative effects of implemented measures. And also, yeah, this lack of, or also the presence of only weak prevention mechanisms makes the compliance with GCF standards a challenge and also a barrier to accreditation and to accessing GCF funds. On the other hand, the GCF accreditation process also brings existing shortcomings to light and fosters the development of robust institutional integrity mechanisms, which is really a very positive side effect of the accreditation process. It really contributes to good governance in the institutions. And I would say there are two main categories of challenges. On the one side, it's the setup of institutional structures and mechanisms. And on the other side, it's also the sustainability and long-term maintenance of these. So on the first point, setting up structures to comply with GCF requirements takes really a lot of time. For example, getting a compliance committees in place or establishing new units and dedicating also a budget for these units and work streams, all while aligning the new frameworks with the existing ones. And in some cases, shifting institutional arrangements and changing policies is required for the institutions. And this is, of course, highly political process that requires lots of time and efforts. And also limited human and financial resources present an additional challenge for these entities. The entities are very diverse in their nature. I'm talking now about 7 entities that are part of this alliance, but this is true for all the direct access entities to the GCF, because there are banks, there are ministries, but there are also NGOs really on the local level. So of course, also depending on the type of institution, it differs a lot how easy it is for them to set up these frameworks and the structures. And then the second point, after structures are established, the new structures also need to be kept active in the long run. And there's a certain risk that once accreditation has been achieved, that there's a kind of vacuum in terms of motivation and also urgency to keep up strong integrity mechanisms. And their effectiveness is constantly being tested during planning and implementation of projects. For example, during procurement, but also regarding conflict of interest or sexual harassment policies, to just name a few examples. And for that, the political backup within the country is really a critical factor, but of course also the requirements of GCF. Right, and as the GCF is also still evolving, so are its integrity-related standards and policies. They are improving over time. And also GCF requirements for accreditation and re-accreditation are quite complex, so that many direct access entities have often a hard time fully incorporating new changes and requirements into their institutional frameworks, and also keeping up with the changing and growing requirements of the GCF. So it really asks for a lot of capacity building in this regard, and also a lot of exchange between those institutions to learn from each other, to not have to reinvent the wheel.
Thank you, Paula. You mentioned the project, the initiative. You help the direct access entities, which to date we have 7 peer countries, entities. You help them to comply with GCF standards, fiduciary standards, and also integrity policy framework, which is, as you mentioned, it's quite a significant process, takes a lot of time and efforts. And can you please elaborate on the peer learning approach that you employed in this initiative? How effective it was from your perspective, the direct access entities to build their capacity, as you mentioned. It's not only about accessing finance, accessing climate, implementing climate projects. As you mentioned, the side effect is indeed the institutional capacity building and setting the policies standards institutionally, internally. So there are a lot of side effects going on, and peer-to-peer learning alliance helping facilitating in this important process. So can you please elaborate on that? What that approach is and how effective it is?
Yes, sure, happy to do so. And maybe also to highlight our role here with this Learning Alliance is not to support the institutions in their accreditation process and setting up the fiduciary standards and all of that, but really to giving them the space to exchange among each other and learn from each other on how to best do that. Mm-hmm. So the Alliance, it offers an opportunity for the direct access entities to engage on how to manage GCF funds in line with the fund's fiduciary principles and standards, as well as also their ability to manage environmental and social risks. And it also provides an avenue for the accredited entities to learn from each other and share common challenges related to the GCF accreditation and reaccreditation process and requirements that need to be in place. And within the context of the Alliance, peers have been able to openly share their progress and also the challenges they are facing. As it is a rather small group, there's a lot of trust among the institutions, which is helpful. And also, the interest to support each other and strengthening the institution's integrity frameworks and standards. And members have also repeatedly stated that their accreditation process would have taken much longer without the support of the peers. So also on that side, this peer exchange, peer learning has helped to speed up processes. And the exchange has also helped members to collaboratively develop policies and guidance documents in line with GCF requirements. And I'll give you now a few examples of these. One of the members is APC, the Alternative Energy Promotion Center of Nepal, which is a national entity under the Ministry of Energy. And they are accredited since 2019, and they currently have one GCF project under implementation. And they are also readiness delivery partner, supporting other accredited entities in their country to build up a GCF pipeline and also to integrate anti-corruption practices. And APC is they have developed their ESS policy, taking inspiration from another institution, which in that case it was the Agricultural Development Agency of Morocco, ADA, one of the first direct access entities to the GCF, and have exchanged with them directly. Heard about or also checked ADA's ESS policy to shape their own and to better understand GCF requirements. And APC also took inspiration from other peer institutions, such as CABE, that's the Central American Bank for Economic Integration. So a quite different institution in a way, acting regionally as a bank. This exchange with CABE has helped to develop the procedure for fraud reporting and investigation, and also the sexual exploitation, abuse, and harassment policy, and also other resources and handbooks. And in those cases, sometimes the peers write each other emails, or they just pick up the phone and speak to their colleagues, and there's really the sense of supporting each other. Really to consider the fact that the institutions have limited resources, limited capacities, and it's oftentimes similar or repeating information that is required, and where it really makes sense to build on what has already been developed by others instead of really starting from scratch or reinventing the wheel.
Yeah.
And also just another example from Uganda, the Ugandan Ministry of Water and Environment, they are also part of this alliance, and they are accredited since 2019. And they also received support from CABE, from the Central American Bank, to develop their anti-money laundering and CFT policies, as well as their redress and complaint handling mechanism. But it's not only the exchange between the peers that has helped, but also really the regular communication with the GCF and with you, the Independent Integrity Unit. So it's proven invaluable to stay on top of developments and to foster a deep understanding of the GCF requirements and standards.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Paula. I also would like to emphasize the peer-to-peer learning initiative is IAU's one of the favorite project, because first of all, the approach, the peer learning approach, it's very effective. It's not top-down approach. It's really, as you said, space, providing the space and platform for the accredited entities to learn from each other. And it's really the mutual learning their experiences. It's not us imposing what they do. And in that sense, we like this initiative and we've been effectively collaborating together. And also the peer members are the direct access entities, which is the strategic priority for the GCF to build the capacity of direct access entities and the project implementation. So in that regard, we are very pleased and happy to work together on this project from IAU side. Okay, so let's moving on. Now we move into the field, the project level field. We have Mrs. Chohant here today, National Focal Point in Mongolia, that oversee the projects, GCF-funded projects in Mongolia. Probably you might know Mongolia is the largest portfolio and has a track record of the projects within the GCF. The Mongolia has 8 projects, yes, since 2016, and 3 readiness projects so far, successfully implemented and currently implementing. And you also have 4 accredited entities, and there are some prospective accredited entities underway, and you have many delivery partners, like around 8 or 10. So it's such a big portfolio for the GCF, and very large, diverse projects and partners and stakeholders in Mongolia. But Mongolia also, as many other countries, is Leopoldo and Paula mentioned, is one of the countries with quite corruption risk is quite high, especially climate-related projects and instruction projects. And that has been shown by the corruption index, which Mongolia always listed in the far end of the ranking. So, Chohant, can you please share or tell us the importance and the relevance of the integrity and transparency in the GCF-funded projects in Mongolia? And what are the main challenges at the project level in Mongolia? Thank you, and over to you.
Thank you, Baira, for inviting me for such a good timing and success, good event. Because as you know, today is the Anti-Corruption Day. World is celebrating. The same time, and the last few days in Mongolia, there is a anti-corruption protest is progressed. And as you know, this is about the natural resources exported to China, and the amount we expected to receive from the export is not matching. So therefore, very big protest is going on, and all the protesters, if you just see from the on the Sukbatar Square, the main square, the people are protesting, and the age is under 30, 35. Very young generation asking the responsibility, accountability from the government. So therefore, this GCF, coming back to the GCF funded projects, it is very good timing for us. And how these last 3 decades, we are receiving a large number of funds and grants and concessional loans from the abroad, and to do better, I mean, for climate actions on the ground. So therefore, these funds, these resources now should declare the right purposes it is spent. So therefore, the GCF focal points role here, I would see very important now to assess and also periodically assess or set up the integrity unit within the NDA, and develop the policy and procedures for integrity purpose. So that is the one of the step moving forward to work with the GCF funded projects. And at the moment, of course, as you just mentioned, highlighted that Mongolia is one of the largest recipients, big portfolio in GCF, and we have a number of good projects implemented on the ground. And so far, in the climate finance-related corruption issues were not detected. And we would like to be more open and transparent, and therefore we would like to build the capacity of the accredited entities that with the purpose of awareness raising should be, and particularly how they received funds should be spent for right purposes and the right actions, and not for something else. So the importance, relevance of integrity or anti-corruption of GCF-funded projects is the key to move further. As you mentioned, Mongolia is also ranked quite way behind than it is, and that is the obviously expressed in this protest of the younger generations as well. And this is the time for us to now initiate this integrity issues, particularly GCF-funded projects. We have to identify or define these GCF-funded projects are clean from these corruption cases, clean from this conflict of interest. We have to declare to the world that our climate funds are clean, far from these corruption issues.
Yeah, thank you, Jahans. Yeah, thanks for sharing the revolution happening in Mongolia, and I hope you and your colleagues are safe in these difficult times of protest. And I hope we will have, I mean, the Mongolians will have some achievements and some victory and success from this protest, which is, it's quite cold out there, maybe how cold, like -30 or so, but despite the cold, people protesting in outside and hours. And you mentioned that the one of the integrity challenges, really the capacity, the lack of the capacity, both at the NDA level and also AE level. And in addition to the building the capacity and improving the policy framework, what needs to be done at the project level And what's the role of the AEs to improve the integrity and transparency in the project implementation? And also, what's the GCF's role in this? How you can see us to help you and AEs in the project implementation?
Definitely. For the project concept note, starting from the project concept note and the project document, and as well as the once a project is approved, then there will be a process of implementation. So each accredited entities or direct access entities, they have their own procedures, and they have own integrity rules and applies policies. So therefore, each entities have a different terms. So coming back to the NDA, periodic reviews coming, and we have each entity has, for example, for us, is a number of entities have different terms and different policy procedures. And for us, it's very complicated and shortened capacity to understand the whole procedure and policy of each entity. So therefore, we are now would like to have some policy and procedure in place on integrity, particularly integrity issues. And we have to ask the delivery partners or the things include or relate our policy and procedure in the further project proposals, proposal development area, and then from the project development part until the end, we are also exchange the information, and it should be a part of our some mechanism or just ties to over and back and forth. We have to communicate. So communication is very important, as well as this institutional arrangement. Just Paolo just mentioned about it, because as you know, the NDA is very limited staff and limited resources. And again, now this integrity issues are very critical in Mongolia. We have to also set up the unit policy in place. And that's the process. It's kind of very, we can start small, but it should be gradually improve and develop further.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, indeed. The integrity and the transparency, accountability process should start from the beginning and from the concept note stage, rather than, at the end of the project or during the monitoring stage. We need to integrate that part, the due diligence, starting from the AE's due diligence process to, from the concept note to the project development stage. That's the key. And then, of course, the implementation part is the key. So, and then, as you mentioned, and also Paula mentioned, each institution have different policies and procedures, but we, under the GCF financing, we do have one single requirement that you have to comply with GCF's integrity policy framework, fiduciary standards. And if you can't meet those standards, can't comply with the standards, then especially for direct access entities, GCF, the IAU, is willing to help and provide assistance to build the capacity so that effectively implement the projects. So it's really good to hear this enthusiasm and motivation from the field, from Mongolian, from local AEs, to willingness to work with us towards the enhancing the integrity. Okay, so thank you very much, our panelists. And this is our opportunity for last remark, additional remarks, additional conclusion based on what we have said and shared on this very important International Anti-Corruption Day. And over to three of you, if you want to share your reflection or...
If you allow me to say a few words, it's interesting to hear from Chohan that there are demonstrations in Mongolia taking place right now. This kind of news has not reached us here in Brazil yet. So I must say that this kind of demonstration is not new. I think that we are witnessing this kind of demonstration everywhere. Young people, but sometimes old people, also civil society as a whole, or where civil society is not organized. Even people by themselves get fed up with this situation, which is normally associated with corruption, and go to the streets to demonstrate. So there couldn't be a better moment to discuss the impacts of corruption on climate change. And I think that we have to look back at what was done in terms of sustainability, and not throw away all the conquests that have been made so far just because there is an issue related to corruption. So these are my considerations, Bayar.
Yeah, thank you, Leopoldo. Yeah, indeed. We globally we've seen and witnessed many revelations and protests, and and then we should recognize the achievement that we have reached so far, and also strive for the new and big changes. That's very important. And other panelists, if you have any reflection or remarks.
Yes, thank you, Bayra, and colleagues, Paula and Leopoldo. It is very important. I think the demonstration is one side, but the main issue here is people would like to know and transparency. People would like to know more about the process, implementation, projects, and civil society organizations and just ordinary citizens would like to know about the project implementation process. So how it is, how can I be a part of this implementation? Is there any opportunity? How it is progressed? Or even I don't want to be a part of this process. I would like to know what is the outcome, what achievements you have done. So therefore, the GCF-funded projects should be more transparent, and information exchange process should be more frequent or clear to the public. And that is a very important part. But we are now here, the direct access entities who are the commercial banks, and some of the informations are very much disclosed, and there is some restrictions. So even though the project process or implementation, the procurement process, that is the part we have to be more open to the public, open to the civil society or the local private sector partners. So that is the part we have to improve, more polish.
Yeah, indeed. It's very important to improve the transparency and share and exchange the information, because the GCF funding is a public fund. We mandated to make the information and funding in the public domain and be transparent at all levels. So glad to hear that there is this effort going on in the field. And Paula, if you have any remarks.
Yes, very briefly, and also picking up from what Joanne had just said about the transparency and also the role of the public. We also see this with the peers of our alliance, that it's really important for them to have more tangibility to all these requirements, to all these policies? Why are they necessary? For some of them, it's still quite new, and others have experienced already cases of fraud or misconduct of funds, unfortunately, but which at the same time bring to light what the implications are. And hopefully not all institutions have to go through this experience. It's rather than also hearing from others and really understanding what can that mean in practice if funds are being misused and anti-corruption is happening. What can that mean for the country, for the perspective of the public, and also for the individual institution, which can be very harmful, of course, and needs to be avoided for all levels, so to say. And yeah, also hearing about the protests in Mongolia, it's interesting, and it shows again how important it is to kind of link these rules and regulations on the one side with the reality on the ground and the people, and make it meaningful for them, and also listening to their demands.
Yeah, thank you, Paula. Yeah, indeed, not only the transparency, but also the wider engagement, stakeholder engagement at all levels, not only within the entities, the delivery partners, but also across the sector, such as Leopoldo mentioned, the legal community, private sector, and civil society. These are the key players in ensuring transparency and integrity. And in fact, I would like to highlight GCF, IIU launched just recently at COP27, launched Civil Society Engagement Initiative. And this is one of the very important and new endeavor from IIU to engage with civil society actors, organizations, to partner together in the field, in the project level, in the monitoring and transparency and check and balance, and all sorts of engagements in the country level. So through that initiative and engagement, IIU hopes that we can more, maximize our effort, integrity efforts, and the policy compliance efforts. So yeah, stay tuned. There will be more engagement on civil society organizations in a country level, including in Mongolia. So let's conclude our today's webinar. Thank you very much for your very interesting presentation and remarks and highlights. It was very enlightening, and it was very informative, and to bring us different perspectives from different continents and different project level. And clearly it shows that we need to work together. Each sector, each industry, each the institution in all level, we have our experiences, accumulated project experience, expertise, and network and platform. If we can join our forces together and share these existing resources and expertise and platforms, we will far more achieve and far more quickly reach the outcomes in ensuring the integrity in climate action, which is, as we all know, we don't have that much of time in the climate crisis. So thank you very much. And we, on behalf of GCF, I would like to wish you the best of luck in your endeavor, in your projects, and in your anti-corruption efforts. And IIU GCF will continue to work with you, partner with you, and collaborate with you in the coming months and years. And let's celebrate International Anti-Corruption Day today, and celebrate our efforts in action.